Break your habit with B.E.R. or B.E.R. We all went outside today. We might have felt that chill, that B.E.R. because we're in Saskatchewan and it was -9 according to the temperature gauge this morning. Another thing that's a little bit B.E.R. is habits that people get underneath. People feel cold. They feel like they can't get out from underneath those habits. And it's an epidemic in a lot of ways because people find that they are so overwhelmed by the habit that they can't quit it, that there's things that are happening around them in their life that are ripple effects based upon the habits that they have. And essentially, habits are dictating a lot of people's lives. So one of the things that people often come to me, for instance, and ask is, well, how can I break a habit? As a lot of you know, I do life coaching. And one of the biggest things that people need help with or coaching with is forming new beliefs and breaking habits and forming new habits. So here's a factual formula that does work to break habits. And it's called B.E.R. I came up with the acronym, but the terms and the steps are all proven steps. Many people have heard of the 21-day challenge, or 21 days to break a habit. It's actually scientifically factual that subliminally, subconsciously, our minds can break a habit within 21 days. There's lots of reasons for that. One of the major reasons is that habits are simply a number of actions that are just combined to do something. So, for an example, a smoker, for instance, is forming a habit by going outside on their break and then producing another action, which is, of course, smoking. So those two things combined are just part of an action that forms a habit. So breaking those, of course, there's a step to do that. There's steps, to do that. So the first step that I would bring up is the B. The B in B.E.R. stands for belief. You need to have a lot of understanding of what the belief is that you have. Your inner beliefs, your core beliefs. And when you come down to what your beliefs are, you start to understand why you do some of the things that you do. And it's interesting when you look at people and you ask them, okay, what are your beliefs behind this? Or what are the underlying beliefs behind that? They look a little bit puzzled at you because underlying beliefs aren't something that you regularly think about. But just a simple study on how you can look at a belief is you can ask yourself one simple question. Why? Why do I do this? And then write it down. But the interesting thing is that that's usually not the answer, the first thing that you write down. You go deeper and you ask yourself, why do I do this? And under a few layers, you peel it back and you start to understand some of the underlying beliefs that form the habit. And there's a lot of openness that can be derived by understanding what the beliefs are. And then, of course, part of belief is that self-belief. Beliefs are essentially patterns of thought. So having patterns of thought that change to be empowering instead of the disempowering beliefs that you have. So by acknowledging the why question and getting to the heart of what limits you, you start taking a look at those limits and then actually change that into a positive belief system, and you start empowering yourself with that energy rather than the negative energy of the limiting belief. The next part of the B.E.R. formula is the E, environments. Environments are one of the things that really, really impact habits. And the reason environments impact habits so much is that we also come to peer pressure. We all like to do certain things, and we all have these routines that we sort of go into and that we do. So one of the things that you might find if you're a smoker, for an example, is you have an environment of friends that you often associate with. So your environment of friends is where you actually go. You maybe go to a bar, you maybe go to a certain place after work or something like that. And that's your environment. So it's the people and it's also the place. So the environment is hugely impactful. You've all heard the saying, you become like those who you associate with. And there's a lot of truth to that. So you need to actually take a look at the environments that you have all around you. You can have a habit of procrastinating. You can have a habit of always worrying or looking at yourself poorly. You can have a habit of not calling the people that you know that you're supposed to call, or not being empathetic, or there's 1,000 different things that you can look at individually that you may have, that you have as a negative habit. But look at the environments. One way to do that is to ask yourself one simple question. That's the where question. Where do I go, and what happens when I go to this place or to that place? And where are those environments? Okay? So the third step to the B.E.R formula to break a habit is replace. It's not one thing to just say, okay, I'm going to quit smoking, I'm going to quit drinking, I'm going to quit pornography on the computer, whatever the problem is, the habit is right now. But you need to replace that with something positive. Scientifically, there's something that's inside this void that is missing. So you filled it with something else, the habit, and now you need to empty that habit, sure, but it will come back. And it's been proven, psychologists have proven this, that it will keep on coming back if you don't actually replace it with something else. And of course, going back to what I was talking about earlier, with the empowering beliefs, replace it with something empowering. Replace it with something that is not limiting, that's something that will actually help you propel forward. A gentleman by the name of Schacter in 1982 came up with an interesting pattern of change. He called it the spiral pattern of change. Whereas we think that change could go like this, kind of like on a progressive scale, right? Where it would start off with old behavior, preconception, contemplation, preparation, action, and then maintenance. So we think that it would go up like this, sort of how people might have taught it before 1982, before this came out. But what he actually found in his studies is that we really go like this, to go upwards. And that's positive, but sometimes what happens is that when we take that little step back, we're trying to quit smoking as an example, we take that step back from, say, okay, the preconception stage, and then contemplation, then we're prepared, right? We're prepared to quit, but then we drop back. We try or whatever, we drop back. But his point and his observation is that to let the spiral go and keep on letting it go upwards, knowing that our tendencies are able to do that. And in some people's minds, that would actually create a sense of hope. Because going up this line is pretty difficult in some ways, because we keep on following and then people give up, and there's that tendency to give up. So in conclusion, 21 days can break a habit. But there's a lot of things that go along with the belief systems that need to be reprogrammed. So we need to look at our beliefs. We also need to look at the environments for which are all around us, and the environments that we choose to go to. And lastly, we need to replace that old habit with a new empowering habit.